Hi, how's it going? My name is Kevin Camarillo. So this is our next virtual assignment. So in today's assignment, we are actually going over in our book today that basically represents exactly when it comes to people who are involved with training, how do we train them? How do we progress? How do we understand the workload that this individual will have to endure? But more importantly, we are actually going to be understanding why, our best opinion, why the author set up this program for these different three individuals who have three different varieties of sports. So basically, when it comes to the program design, we first need analysis of understanding what it is, how does this sport is like professionally competed like. More importantly, what body and limb is involved with movement analysis, and then you have psychological. Physiological analysis, which is basically involves like strength, power, hypertension, and also we have to understand the common injuries that these sports have and different relationships with it. So, for example, we are going to go move on to the athlete scenarios and how we can talk about this. So, when it comes to scenario A, scenario B, and scenario C. So for scenario A, we have a female who's 20 years old, and she is a collegiate basketball player. She plays center, and also she is starting the beginning of the preseason. So preseason, to all of you who do not know, preseason basically is kind of understanding the playing field, kind of working out the different strategies of how we can play or how practice has played off, and actually seeing how much playing time you can come in, and understanding the new talent that is surrounding the different kind of colleges that you will be going against. Now, she does play center, so a lot of different things can happen, since her height can be a huge issue when it comes to injuries, such as arthritis or any kind of joint pain. That is very common in the knees, but more importantly, her power and her strength is um, obviously shown that, thanks to her height, a lot of times actually have a more intensified power output compared to different positions when it comes to women and also men included. Um, like I mentioned, the body and limb movement patterns are comparatively different compared to different type of positions. The center usually doesn't use the athletic explosive ability, but more importantly, they do it when it comes to jumping purposes, such as catching a alley-oop pass or any type of overhead pass, or more importantly, rebounding. However, not as much as when it comes to like point guards or shooting guards. Now, with the next one, we do have a male who's 28 years old. He is a professional American football player. He is on the offensive line, and more importantly, he is just starting the beginning of the off season. Now, the off season is basically kind of like the resting period of the whole football season in general. Now, when it comes to the football season, it actually describes as a huge intense, almost close to 18 or 16 weeks of games, with two on average of off week, which are basically no games that week. Period. Excuse me. Um, his position is very high when it comes to understanding how this player works. So he does involve a lot of strength and power, but more importantly, his body and limbs are more flexed and extended. Yes, it is extended sometimes when it comes to pushing a defender, such as a defensive line, protecting your quarterback, and maintaining that ability to hold your strength. But when it comes to your knees and arms, your arms are mainly flexed because you're trying to hold that defender in front of you and not going anywhere. Your knees are basically flexed to make sure that you can stay in that position. So the common sites of that would be the joints, and more importantly, different ligaments in the muscles. Hence why a lot of times people are really worried about the offensive and defensive linemen, because they always have to have knee braces, because sometimes those joints can easily be overcome during the whole period of process during their athletic journey in the NFL or however professional football. Hopefully we're talking. Hopefully they're in the NFL, but either way, basically they need a good support system, which is why they use knee braces to make sure that they don't have outer or sorry, someone texted me an outer knee basically knees are like coming outwards, almost like instead of bending uh parallel slash normal, it's bending like almost outwards where they're like coming out like this. And then also of course they have knock knee problems where they're bending and their knees are coming together like so. But that would be a huge important, knowing that they are big men. Sometimes they roughly weigh over 200 plus pounds depending on what position they play on the offensive line. And more importantly, they actually do need a lot of different ways to make sure to keep up with every part of their muscle related to basically their upper body, and more importantly their primary source of maintaining their stability, which is their leg muscles, and of course their the gluteus maximus as well, because your hamstrings are attached there, so you want to be careful and you want to make sure to work the athlete as needed to be. Finally, scenario C is a 17-year-old male who is in high school cross country. Like myself, I used to be in cross country, and more importantly, we are going to be doing a we are doing a beginning of the season instead of the off season like the last one. This is going to be all about how we are going to understand that these people are just starting out in the season. um, Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Um, so sorry. Anyway, basically the high schoolers beginning in the season. So basically, this is actually understanding that there's no position in cross country. It's basically running nonstop for 3.1 miles or 5K, and what this is understanding that basically they are learning the concept of the schedule and the season itself and different kind of qualities when it comes to understanding the training purposes and the capability of knowing how to compete at a high peak level, and taking care of themselves. Now, for a person who is just venturing into cross country and understanding the sport, a lot of biomechanics is involved when it comes to lower body, and more importantly, I would say strength as well, because it's a great excuse me. This is a great sport, but there's a lot of complications, especially in the lower body, such as any kind of Achilles tendon irritation, shin splints, knee problems, especially overworking the muscles and the joints. And it's important to actually understand that this is a common issue that relates to me, because I have I have experienced knee problems, such as an ACL injury that I suffered through senior year. And coming back to cross country, I had a lot of work to do to get back into the running itself, even if it wasn't competing, it was just practice. But it's very important to understand when it comes to injuries, it takes a while for people to come back from where they left off, knowing that their muscles have weakened, and also their joints are probably also kind of learning different aspects of like, hey, we don't usually do that, but if we're doing it, I guess we're doing it. Um, so I'm going to be choosing the cross country scenario, because I'm well more interested in that, because I kind of have more of an understanding of the different type of styles of trainings uh, they have going on throughout their years of training, especially from freshman to senior. So when it comes to step two, it's going to be your exercise selection. So it involves choosing exercises that for a resistance training program to make an informed exercise selection to the strength and conditioning professional. So when it comes to cross country, not a lot of resistance is involved. I have to do say so myself. But more importantly, as the analysis, or the basically how the scenario uh, sorry, how the scenario C is, its movement analysis is all about running repetitive leg and arm movements, and more importantly, the lower body muscles are the main key area when it comes to postural muscles, and upper body, which is shoulder and arms. Because when it comes to our midsection, chest, any kind of core, it basically is non-existent. It's all about running. It's all about understanding how we can use our muscular endurance to actually overcome any obstacle in our way when it comes to different terrains of trails, and more importantly, if there's any uphills, that's when we kind of use that strength and power combined to actually just start increasing our intensity and making sure that we can still do this during a whole non-stop of a 3.1 mile race. Okay. So when it comes to the specifics of this training background of this particular person, they have just begun resistance training. Resistance training only has limited skills in performing free weight and machine exercises. Um, and how the author describes, it's basically they are completed 2 times a week resistance training program preseason. So the exercises were 7 different exercises and included 3 core, 4 assistance, 3 lower body, and 4 upper body, which is basically a good amount for a preseason and a good way to start it off and helping a person trying to get into the swing of things when it comes to resistance training. And basically, there's a 1 to 2 set of 15 RM loads. So for me, I feel like this is a good start to an athlete's professional training. Knowing that it's because his frequency is limited. However, he is trying to get into the swing of things, uh, as the article has stated. So it can help him, especially getting into the feel of how much resistance exercise there is when it comes to cross country. Knowing the fact that it's all about running, there's only very little, as I mentioned before, of resist training. But with that said, the exercise included for the core, you got lunges, hit the thigh muscles, vertical chest press, and then rear leg elevated deadlift. And with a vertical chest press, we do use a machine for that. There was moments in my high school career that we did do chest press. More importantly, it's a very interesting way. A lot of coaches, especially my coach, was against that, but he had to include that because he felt like there has to be something that you can put on for muscle wise to help you kind of like take a lot of pressure off your shoulders and more importantly your chest as well. Um, but I mean, there wasn't really too much added on that. However, when it comes to their assistant exercises, they did have abdominal crunches. They had leg curls, lateral shoulder raises, 1 arm dumbbell row, toe raises, machine back extension, and hip flex. So all of these core exercises are, as the book stated, they're not considered. They're not always considered core exercises. Um, the the muscles and joints have a direct application to the running sequence of this runner. However, there's not a lot of of involvement with a lot of muscles, but they do involve the biceps muscles, so they can assist the exercise and isolated the biceps, but they're not needed as much. However, it reduces time for the resistance training portion in the in-season program. I have to say, when it comes to like their program that they assign, I don't really have anything against it. It's just probably the machines, honestly, because I feel like when it comes to cross country, they always have a way of actually using their body weight instead of using machines. Because when it comes to machines resistance purposes, a lot of times cross country runners, they're built not like as me is today. Like, yeah, I have muscles, I have this. I was not like that in cross country. Skinny, a guy who basically got called stick boy, basically. But um but no, I have to say I do agree with some of them, like the lunges, the abdominal crunches, the the toe raises, and also the cable hip flexion and back extension. However, I minus the machines, minus the dumbbells. and minus a chest press, I feel like that would have been perfect. But at the same time, if there was involvement of any kind of resistant training exercises, I would have to involve any like weighted um, calf raises that improve your explosiveness off of your feet to your calves, pushing you off. Because usually for horses, there's a lot of hills involved, and you can actually improve your capability of pushing off to get up vertically to that point of the hilltop, so you don't have to keep going or running slow up that hill. But it helps you actually get a lot less steps in compared to like a person who's completely dead during the run and they're trying to run up the hill, but they're using more steps compared to like a bounding sequence to get up. Um, so when it comes to the frequency of this training, typically how it looks as a beginner in the statement, it says that they're working out twice, 2 to 3 times a week for beginner status allows. A frequently guideline based on the sport season, it's 1 to 3. Assigned resistance training frequency would be still a 2 times a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays. All exercises performed each session. So they say that the assignment training days needs to be planned so they do not have effect on the athlete's performance on this on the scheduled days for cross country meets. So this is where it kind of ticks for me, because we always did. I would change it up. I would change the resistance days from, instead of Wednesday, I would put like hmm. I would probably put Monday and Wednesday, because as much as we do have Saturday, if or even just one day a week, because for a beginner stance, 2 to 3 weeks seems a lot for a person who's just beginning and they are in season for cross country. So that puts a lot more pressure on them, especially maintaining their weight, maintaining the ability of working to a higher time, or excuse me, a lower time of mileage, and keeping the benefit of the doubt to make sure that they can perform on a daily basis is kind of difficult when it comes to um, for that athlete specifically. Um, but the frequency for him would be, if you only train on Wednesdays or Mondays, but I would probably say just stick with Monday. Stick with Wednesday. I feel like cardio, endurance training, or strength training then goes to resistance training can actually work on different aspects, such as doing kind of bodyweight exercises on the field or wherever you're at, or like a park, for example, different kind of stations where you do like a number of sit-ups, but more importantly, you do a number of push-ups, but then you do to a number of jumpy jacks or kind of burpees or squats. Um, More high intensity training, athletes can um, augment their training by using a different way of actually using different muscle groups on different days. So it won't be always be leg day for resistance training, but more importantly, it would be like upper body day or a mix of all around. However, I feel like just one day out of the week can actually help an athlete, especially if they're a beginner. And yes, they did have some experience in the preseason, but on during the season, that's a whole different concept. Now, I could be completely wrong, but at the same time, as a cross country runner myself who used to do this quite some time, there wasn't a lot of training specifically on resistance training. So when it comes to similar trainings such as strength training or power training on different kind of opportunities to uh, opportunities within the season, that's a whole different ballgame, because then you're focused on the aspect of the sport, not the capability of growing muscles. But yes, like I mentioned, like calf raises or any kind of like um, back barbell squats that can help you have more better stability. Um, that could be a benefit, because you're working out and you're making sure that you're working on specific muscle groups that can help you beneficial wise, instead of adding more and more weight. So maybe you could do that kind of more like leg day this week, upper body next week, core upper body next week, and so on and so forth. So for the exercise, for this exercise or the exercise order, um, as stated, it says refers to the sequence of exercises performed during one training session. Although there's many ways to arrange exercises, decisions are invariably based on how one exercise affects the quality of effort or the technique of the other exercise. So, meaning, as coach, as Professor Dorgo said, that basically it should be organized where mostly you're not using a lot of a lot of different a lot of different ways of exhausting the body, but usually goes power, core, and then assistant exercise. So power is exercises such as like a snatch, power clean, push jerk, etc. Um, when it comes to core exercises, as we mentioned, we're focusing on the aspect of what we can do to work on the different asperities of the muscle groups that are more highly involved with so-called sport. And then when you have the assisted, it's basically kind of relating to like different resist bands, like someone helping you work on your speed, or you having the machines to actually help you kind of gain that strength that you need. Um, excuse me, getting the strength you need and conquering and requiring you to have different levels of exercises. So it does help beneficial wise. However, when it comes to the frequency guideline based on the sports season, 1 to 3 weeks seems abrupt. I would say, depending if you have an off day or off season, excuse me, an off week, I would probably stick to that as 1 to 2. The frequency, especially with the beginner status, because there's not a lot of days, I would say, that you could easily gain the opportunity of muscle and more importantly stay the same speed that you were the week before or the meet before, however you want to depict it. And it helps you, one, it does help you become explosive, but two, it also lowers your increase of your agility slash endurance to when it comes to speed results and seeing your time difference change and becoming a different person when you're running the race, because you can feel like you're a million pounds better, greater. So I would I would say 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, excuse me, 1 to 2 weeks for beginner and even frequency. Assigned resistance training for the schedule wise, I would stick if we're going to do 2 weeks. I mean, two in the week. I would have to say 1 to 2 weeks. And for just those meet in general, if there was something that's happening that week, I would stick to one. Um, but at the same time, when it comes to like the assigned exercise order, it would be core then assisted, as it states in the scenario. So basically, it has upper and lower body exercises alternating, and then you have circuit training. So a lot of it involves lunges, as we mentioned before, lunges, leg curls, toe raises, lateral shoulder raises, and abdominal crunch. So it says complete one set each exercise, then repeat. Now, if we did have an off day and we wanted to work out on the weekends, I would prefer, um, if depending on the schedule, of course, because for my schedule, we had meets all Saturdays throughout the school year. So if we did exercises within the week with like one in the middle, such as Wednesday, as I mentioned, I would probably complete this. It says complete one set of each exercise, then repeat. Um, for time wise, I would say complete this within 45 to 50 minutes because, well, there's no time that it's been given. Only just like, hey, repeat it once you're done. I mean, it's like how many times does a day have to repeat it because their body can only do so much, and sometimes it can overdo them and they can be exhausted and mentally not physically ready for the next practice. But yeah, so as you heard, when it comes to core, and assisted exercises, those are the two main priorities when it comes to that. Because the core exercises, like I said, it's all about strictly running. That's your core exercise. You're running all over the place. And when you have the assistant exercises, those are meant to help you develop, like, aspect of muscles, ranges, and mostly helping you with different kind of circuit training to make sure that you can have better endurance, but also having the power that you need. But you don't have power when it comes to these exercise order strategies, because power is not really involved. Only strength and hints of strength, but the core and also the assisted exercises are mainly your main entree, you could say, because there's not a lot of weights that can help you improve your time. Because if you improve your muscles, then you gain more time off of your best time that you ran, because you're adding muscle, and when you add muscle, you're adding weight that pulls you down even more with Earth's gravity, causing you to actually have like the feeling of something that you ate just right before a race, and it feels like you're getting weighed down. And with this, um, like I mentioned, I would probably, if it was 2 times a week, I would put Monday and Wednesday. If it's running day, then um, I would probably say Wednesday for sure. Uh, for the exercises, still, I would like to specifically stick with body exercises, and um, and yeah, stick with body exercises that help the person um, actually get everything in set when it comes everything set and done when it comes to cross country training. More importantly, because it just it involves a different sequence of performing exercises, but also using the aspect of the same muscle group. So if I was doing body weight exercises, I would like to stick with that. More importantly, if I was going to do an assisted exercise, I would probably say like, hey, how about we do, um, let's do some body weight squats. Afterwards, we're going to actually do some assisted squats where we are actually going to have a squat machine where we do put some weight on us, but we're not putting too much weight, because we're going to put a weight where it's not difficult, and yet more importantly, it's not too easy, where we're meeting in the middle, and we're going to make sure that we get um, everything calculated to get the best outcome of this exercise. So when it comes to step 5, it says training and loading repetitions. So basically, when it comes to loading, it simply refers to the amount of weight assigned to that specific exercise, and often characterize the most critical aspect of resistance training program. Now, when it comes to the training load, so the load is basically a way of actually understanding how much weight and how many reps of that specific exercise you do. So basically, for example, as the book states, we're doing a 40 kilogram jump squat load for 4 sets of three is doing basically a huge number of understanding how much weight you are carrying on. So I guess for another example, you could put how it states to more elaborate on this. If someone was doing 120 kilograms of weight of barbell back squat, they have the 120 kilogram dumbbell barbell on them, and they're doing 12 reps. So you times that by 12, 120 times 12, you equal 1,440 kilograms, which is basically meaning that if you're doing 1,440 kilograms per set, that's 12 times you're going down, and that's how much you are actually you are holding on to repetitively. So if you times that by 3, if we want to do quick math really quick, let me just do this really quick. Let's see. 14 times 3. So it will be 4,320 or kilograms to be exact. So um, this actually helps you understand the fact that a specific amount of load and repetition is very crucial to understand, especially in the cross country world, because anything can happen when it comes to knowing that, hey, this person is pretty strong, he can carry this weight, but how much can he actually hold on to that weight, and how many times he can do this specific exercise and how many reps. So if we go down um, to the specific exercises as this person, the author, made. Basically, we have the same exercises as we mentioned, where you have your lunges, your one row, and your lateral raises. Again, I don't agree with some of these exercises because I feel like it's really not in that power we're looking for. Yes, it is related to strength, but power seems more in the vertical shoulder raise and the one arm dumbbell. So basically, we have 12 RM for lunge and vertical chest press, 15 RM for one arm dumbbell row and lateral shoulder raises. Now, every exercise has a specific set number of weight. So, for instance, you have lunges, which basically looks like it could barbell, or more importantly, most likely would be the best range. It would be 2 dumbbells for lunges, where it's going to be 45 pounds and equal together. Excuse me. For vertical chest press, you have 70 pounds. So when it comes to that, that seems like it's going to be on the machine. So you can set that to a 70 pound. It's a little not too difficult, but at the same time, it does use a lot of force and power to push that machine straight forward with knowing how a cross country athlete is. They don't really involve any mechanics whatsoever, body mechanics that is, of pushing at all. So that's why it's recommended to go easy on them. And I think 70 pounds, it might be borderline, but that's why I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to see that in one of my exercises. I would like to see body weight, like pushing off the ground. That's a different aspect, but that's a push up. But again, you don't see that in cross country. One arm dumbbell row. 25 is a responsible weight amount. And then we have lateral shoulder raise, 10 pounds, pretty acceptable. Now, when it comes to training loads, excuse me, training load, so basically for all exercises equals the load of amount from 12 RM, 10, or equal the amounts to the loads using in this preseason. So basically meaning that we are trying to still increase this person's weight, more importantly, increasing their weight on their exercises, but we also want to maintain the ability to actually keep him in with what he was doing preseason wise to make sure he's not overdoing it. It's really hard to understand exactly how the author really wants this specific workout to be when it comes to cross country, preferably. Now, when it comes to leg curls, sure, but if it's asking like, hey, he has to do leg curls on a machine, which is 65 pounds, I mean, yeah, that could be respectful. However, he is a beginner, so I don't know if 65 pounds right off the back is possible for him. But if he kept doing that in the preseason, then I would say keep him at that rate, unless he can go like a point or like 5 pounds heavier. But if not, I would just stick with him right there and let him just try to feel it out, basically. Tail raises, basically 20 pounds, and then you have machine back extension, which is 50 pounds. Now, the backs, now, yes and no. I like doing Supermans on the floor instead of using the machine because I uses more body weight. However, if it comes to, yes, the back exercise machine does seem like a good benefit when it comes to helping your lower back be supported, especially helping your spine be comfort with the muscles included. But the way that he set it up, when you have lunges, vertical chest, one arm load, lateral raises, I have to switch that up. So, for example, I would put for power core. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. For power core and assisted, I would say lunges first, leg curls, and then uh, toe raises, back extension. Then we're gonna move on to the lateral raise, or actually no, let's scratch the curl raise. So we're gonna do lunges. Yeah, lunges, uh, toe raises, I'm sorry, no, not machine. Toe raises, one arm, shoulder lateral raise, one arm dumbbell, and then we will do vertical chest to machine back, because I feel like that would be the more way of getting assisted, of understanding how to get the concept of this exercise completed. Now, it says the exercises were shown were selected as new exercise for the in-season program and therefore required 12 or 15 RM testing. The other assistant exercises were carried over from the preseason, do not require testing and repetition identically. So basically meaning that they're adding new concepts to these exercises. However, when it comes to the cross-country runner, he might be overdoing when it comes to core exercises in general. So resistance training might not be his specialty, especially knowing the fact that he's probably already going through a lot of different exercises, such as like endurance running and a lot more time-paced exercises that doesn't help him physically to maintain the ability of actually lifting weight. Now, every day is a new day. Yes, the person could be doing extremely well and actually just dismantling everything that comes out of my mouth as I'm recording this video. However, I don't believe that the new exercises for the in-season program therefore requires 12 to 15 RM testing. I would say minimum at 12 or 10, because sometimes a lot of these athletes don't use weight. Like, if I told a freshman athlete or a senior athlete, go do a deadlift, go do a deadlift. Let's do 150 pounds, for example. Freshman can't do it. Senior, sure, he has more experience, he has more ability to do it because he's been working out here and there, but at the same time, he's struggling. I don't think I will want him to do. If I tell him to do 12 or 10 of those or 8 of those, he's gonna look at me and say, "What the heck were you talking about? Like 8 of those?" But if he's doing one, that means that that's his max. Like, you can see him struggling to get that thing up because he's not trained to do that. He's trained to run. He's trained to understand that his biomechanics are mainly strictly developed to be put on the pavements or trails or the track itself. It's just a little bit interesting that he wants that much reps. I would actually suggest doing 8 to 10, because there's no way in heck that I would want my person to do 12 of 15 for a testing purpose for a cross-country runner. Which leads into volume, because it's basically asking you, how much weight are you deciding to put on this specific runner and helping him perform to his peak? Which refers to how much this person is lifting. So, as we talked about before about the kilograms, I like to put it in perspective of how the person identified the whole concept of this book / chapter of this area of content. So when he says that you have a volume of 2 sets for 10 reps and then you have 50 pounds, you are putting 2 times 10 times 50, which equals 1,000 pounds. So you're telling me that you want an athlete, if they're doing, let's say, because if we go back, it says strictly, the exercises shown were selected as new exercises for the in-season program and therefore require 12 RM to 15 RM of testing. Now, we don't know exactly what those exercises are. I have a feeling it might relate to the chest press, the lunge, and the leg curls. Now, you're telling me that they want us, if we did 2 sets of 10, for example, and you're doing, let's see how much. We got 65 pounds. 65 pounds. So you're doing 2 sets to 12 to 15. Let's do 2 sets times 12 times 65. Now, you're doing that twice. That's a lot of weight for your legs to take, especially, yes, your legs are very strong. Yes, your legs are very capable of doing anything, especially pushing your weight off the ground. Is it enough to pull / flex to get weight close to you? I don't know. I don't think so. Because I feel like that's not a main priority of understanding how the training volume can be set in stone and actually help different amount of weights, and the volume can be calculated to help the training session proceed and more importantly, the athlete in general. So it's important to understand that the reps of this is mostly in looking for muscular endurance. 65 pounds, if it is possible, maybe it might be a walk in the park. As I mentioned before, if it was a freshman who's just getting into the training process of understanding that they're moving from middle school to high school level, that's a different take on it, because then you're looking for muscular endurance, knowing the fact that you're looking for 12 or more reps. But it still is tough for that athlete, so that's why I'm saying maybe 8 to 10, 6 to 10, because that's a little bit more underneath the muscular endurance but hypertrophy, and it kind of gets them to understand the concept of how to work with these exercises, especially if this is the new exercises that are being implemented compared to what they were doing in the preseason. And it kind of makes zero sense to me, though. But here is what the problem is. It says course exercises are 3 to 12 sets. 3 sets of 12 repetitions. Assistant exercises 2 to 15. And then you have your some Wednesdays and Saturdays of exercises. You have lunges 3 to 12. Vertical chest press 3 to 12. Leg curls 3 to 15. One arm dumbbell row 2 to 15, toe raises 2 to 15, back extension, abdominal crunch 3 to 20, which is perfectly fine with my standards. Machine back extension 2 to 15. Now that is quite a bit of amount for a cross country runner. Not gonna lie. Triceps, don't know what triceps are there for. That I still can't get my head around it. And 2 to 15, depending on how much they weigh. And knowing a cross-country runner, I have to say probably like 20 pounds or so, but at the same time, in their statement, they said that it's 25 pounds, but depending exactly how much this person weighs, how much the height is, how much they already lift as it is. We only got the program for it right now. And yes, we do have some, I guess, the weight that they did in the preseason, but at the same time, it's hard to explain exactly the way and the concept of what they want to do with this program. But at the same time, I could see why the author wants to do this. I know I've been really on this author's butt about this program, but if he wants to get into the swing of things, especially with the volume and how many reps that this person wants and understanding the concept of cross country, then sure, he's doing a good job. But at the same time, my opinion, I don't know if that would be the best program, but to get an understanding and feel of this person during end season, he's trying to see how much of how much endurance, how much stress, how much strength he can endure within the season, kind of getting an understanding with him and seeing, if he does carry this on next season, then we can actually see his past results, understanding the whole different kind of core exercises, assistant exercises that they use when it comes to reps. So then maybe they increase the sets, maybe they decrease the sets, or more importantly, they actually just put on more weight or less weight, which is a good opportunity. And that's probably why that he says in one of the comments, he says the 8 exercises are performed one set at a time, one immediately after the other. Once 2 sets are completed, the athlete performs the final sets of the lunge, vertical chest press, and abdominal crunch exercise in that order. So basically saying that he has a set exercise that helps lead into the final steps of their training, kind of seeing how much it looks like, how much energy they have / strength they have left. Because it's like you have the lunges that works the lower, you have the vertical chest, which is upper, and then you have your trunk, which is your abdominal crunches. So 3 categories that he wants you to understand that we are working to this, but we are going to actually little by little get to the very finish line, and we're going to see how much strength you have, which is, I guess, a good idea in general, but at the same time, it's hard to tell. But he is on the path to understand that, yes, this is a good concept of a resistance training. Still don't, I knowing that my past history, I would say still Monday and Wednesday, but 1 week at a time, but 2 days a week. Yeah, if they can handle it, I would say that. But the final step includes what he wants is a rest period. So for the rest period, he has had 30 seconds of different core exercises and assistance exercises 20 seconds. So he wants core exercises to be 30-second length of a period. So for example, we have 3 sets of 12 of 3 sets of 12 of lunges. So that means that you have 30 seconds to complete. You have that much to complete. So 1 set of 12, and I have 30 seconds rest. So this is a very interesting muscular endurance, and the way that he wants it to work is basically the core exercises is what we want to focus on. So we want to make sure to regain our strength, but the assistant exercises are the ones that we don't typically use. So we're going to increase a little bit of the intensity level because we're decreasing 10 seconds off of 30 seconds for core exercises. So it's basically you don't have to get set up and then go right into it, but you're learning how to use different aspects around you. More importantly, using different muscle groups that you don't typically use, so then we can actually help you gain the strength you need, but also increase your capability of your endurance training to help you proceed with exercises and also different training aspects in the near future with the program. But yeah, I mean, in conclusion, when it comes to 7 different steps of him applying this to an exercise program, knowing the fact that he says Wednesday through Saturday, 3 to 12, 45 pounds, vertical chest press, 3 to 12, 70 pounds, leg knee curls, 65 pounds to 2 by 15. One arm dumbbell row, 2 to 15, 25 pounds. Toe raises, 2 to 15, 20 pounds. Lateral shoulder raises, 2 to 15, 10 pounds. Back machine, 2 to 15, 50 pounds. And then you have abdominal crunches, which is 3 to 20. So complete 1 set of each exercise and then repeat. But remember, you still have to do apparently the abdominal crunches and also the shoulder lateral raises and also the lunges in some order. So that's why I was a little bit confused when I read it. However, I mean, the way that he is setting it up seems plausible. However, in order, I don't think the vertical chest press would be second, but at the same time, he's trying to like help you understand different aspects of seeing the program design. So the process begins to determine the the demand of the sport and the training status of the athlete. So with the knowledge that the exercises gives to select training frequency and establishes the way that this athlete is trained. Um, it's followed by the load assignments and the training volume choices based on the desired training outcomes and helping to understand what the person can do in the short amount of time, but also implement different rest periods as well. So it's a great way to kind of see it, knowing the fact that yes, there's going to be different scenarios where a high school student does come in, he has experience, but then he has to understand that he's getting into a different ball game, which it means that he has to understand that there's going to be different exercises that involve different outcomes of what he needs to do, what he needs to change, and what uh how he can complete these exercises. So it's a great way to see it. However, the way that he leads on it seems more um he shows not more, but he wants to interpret the best possible way that he can get this athlete to be encouraged how much endurance they have, because knowing that they have a short period of break time and going right into the next exercise means that it's working on endurance, because it's you don't really rest in cross country, and you're not really resting during exercises as well within your practices. So when he actually gives you an opportunity, such as actually working out with a resistance training, he doesn't want to put too much load on you, but at the same time, he wants to put just enough to actually include that resistance that you need to make you a better runner, but also a better person when it comes to stability purpose and also strength training. So overall, he it's a very interesting assignment, very interesting way to look over it. A lot of information that for me as a athlete who ran cross country has observed throughout this article slash pages, it's hard to demonstrate, it's hard to agree with him, but at the same time, for me, the only thing I can see what he's trying to get at is just working more of endurance strength, helping a person to understand exactly what they're capable doing, and making sure that they can properly succeed with these exercises and implementing the different kind of volume, rest, um, excuse me, the different loads, different analysis of understanding that athlete specifically to see exactly he or she what they're capable of doing and what their experience is like, so they can set it up. And more importantly, just understanding the exercise order, because it seems like it's a little bit mixed, because as you know, it's power, core, and assisted. But like I said, I don't really see power that much besides the vertical chest press and back machine or lunges. But I mean, the way that he sets it up seems like he's going from uh, a lot of power to some core and then to assisted exercises. But at the same time, I feel like he's only trying to do this for endurance purpose wise. So, I mean, my own words, I mean, he made the decision for each step of this athlete scenario to get him more used to the understanding of endurance, the understanding of strength, and helping him get to where he needs to be when it comes to this season. Not overworking him, but yet just making sure that he can implement that training exercise, knowing that it is recommended that no matter what, people should be recommended to do 1 to 2 resistance trainings or weight training per week. And he's implementing that not too aggressively, not as the other two scenarios, because a lot more input is included with those two, except for the running, because there's a less amount of input. It means that they have to carefully put this in a good design form where that athlete can perform well with the exercise and, more importantly, perform well within the season. So overall, a good way of seeing it, but I did have my I did have my take on exactly what I did not really like. But at the same time, I did not write this book. The author did, and he or she is understanding what they're writing, understanding the concept, understanding the goal, understanding how to work with an athlete. And I feel like they did a good job just kind of explaining the different outcomes, the different situations, different weight variations of how to give this athlete, and more importantly, just understanding rest time of how much an individual needs to rest compared to another individual who's working on endurance compared to one that's working on power. So overall, endurance training template for resistance training looks phenomenal. Knowing that the rest has been inputted, and by right then you can understand that the 30 to 20-second rest is pretty small compared to the other twos. The other twos rest, and it helps you understand that this is really working on endurance and actually making sure that you can gain muscle but also stay put and keep pushing towards the finish line of this exercise. So great interpretation. But yeah, that was the virtual assignment. I hope I answered the questions. I know that this was a little bit difficult and almost took me an hour to kind of talk about it. It's just because, it's just hard to see through the eyes of this writer. The reason why is because, one, I'm not the writer, but two, trying to understand why they put that there and using my words to interpret it exactly what they wanted to explain and actually want to get their message delivered to us or the athlete itself. And where it helps them understand that little by little, if we can increase the load of your resistance training from the preseason to the in-season, what do you think we're going to do the next preseason? We're going to stick with that plan and upgrade it even more. So I guess that's what they're looking at, they're interpreting, but at the same time, I don't physically know. But I can say for sure that this information is very crucial to understand how an athlete should be worked into a season compared to a preseason or off-season template, getting them not just ready, but more importantly, still getting them highly involved and active to maintain their curiosity or intensity or endurance throughout the season. So it's a great way of looking at it. So I'm glad that I was reading this over. It took a while to complete this, but hopefully I answered the question. But this is something that I know is going to be an interesting take on reading this chapter and reading this whole sequence of scenarios. But the cross-country one was the chosen one I did, and I have to say it was very interesting how the author did it. But like I mentioned, endurance, intensity seemed like the main key factors, but also putting the load on the athlete to help them out and be as best as they can, especially working out their max rate, seeing how many they can do within that season so they can adjust accordingly and help the athlete perform better.